Thanks for watching our review on the new Polar Vantage M. We decided we're going to raffle off one of these bad boys. To enter, all you have to do is make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. We'll be pulling a winner at random on October 31st, so make sure you subscribe. Thanks a lot. Hey everybody, this is Steve Moore, owner of runmoore, a brick and mortar store here in Carroll County, Maryland, also one of the top 50 running stores in the country. So today we're going to be doing our first non-shoe review. We're going to be doing the Polar Vantage M GPS watch. It's a multi-sport watch from Polar, who's been making watches and heart rate monitors since 1977. At the time this watch came out, they also came out with the Polar Vantage V, but we are doing the Polar Vantage M. So real quick, full disclosure, Polar did send me this watch to play with, so I did have an opportunity to go out and run with it. I got a couple hundred miles on it, but I was asked and I was given this watch by Polar to do this review. So just want to lay my cards out on the table. But anyway, a couple just quick differences between the M and the V before we get started. The V is like a little more high-tech version of the M. So it's got a little bit longer of an active battery life with 40 hours versus 30. It has a touchscreen monitor as opposed to the button only on the M, this version we're reviewing. And it also has a couple other little techie stats into it. You have your power outage, and you also have a barometer built into it. You're still able, if you wanted to kind of track your power wattage and the outage of output that you're doing on your runs and activities, you can get a third-party software and pod that you can sync up to, but it's not built in. If that information means nothing to you or is over your head, fantastic. The M is probably much more in your wheelhouse anyway. So, I have been running with watches and GPS watches for like 30 years now. I go back to running with like a little Timex, and I remember having my first Ironman Timex and running many laps on the track and doing a little lap counter on that, and to running with a pedometer and measuring my strides in the snow, to driving and putting little markers out and trying to keep track of my mileage and my pace. So I've really kind of seen a whole lot of transitions and run the whole gamut of watches. Just in the past couple of years since I opened the store, I've run in a Soleus, a Garmin, an Epson, a TomTom, and an Apple Watch. So I have got a pretty good background in different watches that I've run in. And as a pretty serious runner, I do ask certain things out of a watch. And hopefully you guys kind of are with me on the things that are important for an everyday runner. Whether you're a novice runner or a serious runner, there's certain things that I look for in a watch, and the things that are really important to me. So the things that are important to me in a GPS watch, first off, I want something that's going to be easy to get synced up and operate. I want something that's going to be super accurate. I want something that's going to be able to provide me with information when I'm running quickly while I'm moving. And I want something in the end that I can transfer my information to a third-party site, and that will provide me with some information that I can learn something about my run. So I kind of want to walk through each step and give some information about my experience with this watch, and hopefully you guys will follow along. So first, I'm a bit of a dullard when it comes to most technology stuff here, so I usually have a lot of trepidation when I get a new toy because I always get frustrated, but I found this watch to be easy and straightforward getting it set up out of the box. It asks a bunch of personal information, not like mother's maiden name or social security, but it wants to know your height, your weight. It wants to know sort of the frequency in which you run. It's going to want to know what wrist you wear your watch on. It's going to want to know like your perceived maximum heart rate. Now some of these things it does have a default on it. Like for me, it already set up my 220 maximum heart rate minus my age. So it already had in there set up that my max heart rate should probably be 180. Now depending, some people have a lower or higher perceived maximum heart rate. Mine is a little bit higher. I tend to run a little hot. So I was able to adjust that, and that is important because that'll affect your different target zones when you're running. So I like that it asks those kind of questions. And this watch also does monitor your sleep, so it'll even get into like, what's the sleep number that's right for you? Not just a generic 8 hours. It wants to know like your lifestyle and your schedule. What is a goal number for you? And it'll monitor your sleep, and it'll give you all the stats at the end based on like interruptions and such. It also has the ability to set up notifications. So if you are pairing this with your phone, you can have it so you can receive text messages or anything else that you want on here. You can't answer phone calls on here or respond to text messages like you could on maybe like an Apple Watch, but it gives you the information you need. I don't usually carry my phone. I'm here in the shop, so I can just throw my phone on my desk, and then if somebody texts me or I see a call coming, I can just kind of peek to my watch and see it. So that's nice. I also have the 24-hour heart rate monitor running all the time. I kind of purposely with this wanted to see what the battery is like with like everything turned on all the time. So I have my heart rate constantly on here, so I can look down in one button. I can see what my actual heart rate is at that particular moment and get all my information on it. So that's something that I like to constantly have. And again, that was easy, and the information on it seems to be pretty accurate. So the first thing you're going to want to do is download the Polar Flow app, and that's going to kind of sync up some of that information that we're just going through. Simple, easy, and from there you can pair it up with any of your other third-party softwares. I run with Strava. That's my preferred third-party site. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily need to have a third-party, but I like Strava. I've been running with Strava for a long time, so I easily, I sync that up pretty easily, so my data will finish my run and transfer over to Strava. And there's certain pieces of information that I like to view on one app versus another, and if you're a running dork like me, you probably have a similar thing. So there's a ton of different platforms that you can pair it up with, whether it's through like the Nike Fitness app or Runtastic or whatever. You're able to get that information over there pretty seamlessly. So for my maiden voyage run on here, I had no problem syncing it up and getting outside and having immediate service on the watch so I can go for a run. And anybody who's run with a lot of GPS watches over the year, like that's always scary, right? As you get out there and you're worried that it's gonna be you're in a weird spot or your watch isn't gonna connect right. My last watch, I had that magical line in my driveway, and I knew if I started to try to turn it on prior that it wasn't gonna sync up, and I'd have to like go back in the house and restart it and like do the whole thing all over again. Or my old Garmin, like I'd have to literally go out and put it on a mailbox and then go back inside, and it would take like 2 minutes and come back on. Like we've all kind of done that. So I'm always anxious to try a new watch to see if it's gonna sync up quickly and see how accurate it is. Because I've had watches where it'll say it's all ready to rock and roll, and then you come back and you realize that the first 100 meters it wasn't even activated. It took longer than it said it was. So this one was really easy, and I purposely have tried to turn it on earlier in my house, in the shop, gone to a trail, gone to a track, done a bunch of different activities with it, and I've had no problems getting it ready to go, turning it on. It takes like from my house, I can turn it on walking out the door, and I get the little jingle jangle that it's ready to rock and roll by the time I hit my mailbox. So that's great, especially like if you've been running a long time like me. My last watch was a touchscreen watch, and it was a little wonky trying to get it to hook up. And so like I'd be out there in gloves, trying to take the gloves off and try to get it synced up. But with this guy, I had no problems with it. So it actually is gonna be nice when the winter comes where I can turn it on in my house, walk outside, and be ready to go. As far as the run itself, the accuracy on it was great. I did some runs that I have measured out with a wheel, and I found them to be dead on accurate. I went to a trail that's measured out, and I've had watches that have lost connection in the trails. I had no instances of that. My feedback and pro tip on this, when you're setting the watch up, I don't like information in kilometers. Like I ran in college, I did enough kilometer stuff then. I want to have my stuff in miles, right? So I was able to, you go through the watch and you can say like, how do you want your information given to you? So I changed my watch, I went it in miles, and I changed the watch setting on the power, on the Polar Flow app, miles. But on the auto lap, when you're getting your splits, it still comes as kilometers. So if you are like me and you want to get your auto splits, you want to get a little buzz when you hit a certain split, you have to go into each sport individually and change the distance that you'd prefer to get your laps. So I had to go back in after my first run and change it so I get it on the miles. And it sounds silly, but it's one of those frustrating things on your first run. You want to be able to get the splits the way you have it, and like I thought I had it all the way I wanted it. But anyway, that's my little pro tip. Make sure you go through and change how you want your information given to you, what distance you want it given to you before you go out on your maiden run. During the run itself, I also found that it was easy to get the information. You know, I've had watches where like it's kind of wonky, or like I said, my Apple Watch, it would turn off, so you'd have to like shake your wrist or doing this, or you hit a button. The backlight turns on naturally when you're running, and it's already pretty light anyway on here, so I didn't have any problem seeing the data. And especially when I got my splits, it was easy to look down and the whole screen would be white, and you can see the information that you needed easily. I went to the track and did a track workout, and I was lapping it up, so I was hitting my lap button, and every time I wanted to hit my lap, it would give me a nice white background and give me the information easily, so I was able to see what I was doing without a problem. Finishing up the run, I was hoping that I could transfer the stuff wirelessly without a problem, like walk in the house and then it would seamlessly transfer. I'd say like 25% of the time when I finished my run and I turned off the run and I walked to my house, the information was already there on the Polar app and already synced to Strava. Every other time I would have to manually just hold down the button and it would sync it up. Wasn't a big deal, but it was something that kind of frustrated me, that you have to be aware of, that it might take an extra second or two. Now I come from the era of like when I have to plug in my watch to a computer to get the information out, so like 10 seconds isn't the end of the world for me. But it is something they advertise, so it was something that I had to kind of get used to. The stats that I got on the run are really nice. I like the layout of the app. You get a ton of information, and it gives you some training tips along the way. So it takes that data that you already gave them, the type of runner that you are, your maximum heart rate, the zone stuff that you want to get into, and it will tell you exactly on a nice big map where you were in your run, where your maximum heart rate was on your run, your lowest point. If you continue on this trend, how long your current fitness level will carry on. It'll give you, you've been running too hard, you might need to turn it down a little bit. So it gives you little reminders when you finish your run about the type of running that not just you did on that day, but cumulative and looking forward based on what your projected fitness is going to be, which I really liked. I am a running stat guy, so I really do look at a lot of that stuff. I liked being able to see like, okay, if I stopped running today, how long do you think I can carry this fitness level onto? I'm never going to stop running, but I like kind of looking ahead at that information. This watch will also give you your, they call it your running index, but it's really just your VO2. It will give you an idea of what your VO2 is, and not all the watches that I've had in the past have given that, and it's a stat that I really like to look at. There was some more wavery information on that, like it changed pretty big throughout each run. The previous watch, it was pretty consistent, like up and down 1 or 2, but I've had watches, like, typically my runs, my VO2 is usually in the low 60s, but this could be anywhere between like 52 to 66, which is a pretty big jump considering I'm running consistently. But my max hard runs are pretty consistent. Looking back at my previous watches, they're pretty consistent along the way. And I've now had 3 different watches with a heart rate on it, and they've all been very consistent along the way. So I have found that to be super nice, that I can have all of this information from my watch on this platform that I like the layout of. I still go to Strava for some stuff. I like looking on a run and looking through each mile and seeing how high my elevation is on each mile. This will give you an end of run elevation from your highs, your gains and your losses, but I like to see it broken down even further than that. This will also give you your cadence, it'll give you your turnover rate. One thing that was kind of interesting on this is it only gave you one side, right? So you kind of have to double your number. So, that ideal number of 180 cadence when you're running, the turnover that you're running with, it would give me that number in half. So it would say like, your turnover rate was 90. So I'd have to double it and get myself at 180. So just be aware, when I was first looking at it, I thought perhaps there was an error, and then I did a little bit of research on it. I found out that they're just giving you one side of your cadence. So just be prepared. You're going to have to do that little tough mental math in your head. So as far as running every day, you want to make sure you have a good battery. And this has been the best battery on a GPS watch that I've had. So it says 30 hours of active running. So I typically now I'm charging this thing like every 5 or 6 days, which is way better than my last watch. And it doesn't take long to charge for me. It takes about an hour and it's ready to go. So that was a nice plus for me, was being able to get my stuff and not have to worry if I'm going on vacation for a couple of days, although I never take vacations. But if I were, I wouldn't have to take my charger with me. So really, overall, for the price point on this at $279, I thought this was a really good, fair watch. It doesn't offer any music solutions. I had been running in a watch that did have music built into it, so it was sort of disappointing that it didn't have an option, and it doesn't look like there's going to be anything in the near future from Polar that's going to be able to have music set on the watch. But I just took my old Apple Watch and took the bands off, and I hooked up with a Bluetooth headphones, and I had a little wireless music player, and I had my watch. And quite honestly, going back to the things that are important to me, I want accuracy, I want ease of use, I want to have something that that'll have a good battery. All that information, I prefer to have this watch minus the music than my previous watch that had music, but all the information was garbage, and the little things about getting it, walking out the door and running, weren't nearly as good. So for me, I found this watch to be a great value at $279, and I've enjoyed running with it, and I appreciate Polar for giving me this, because it's going to be my watch moving forward, so I really enjoy it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it below. I'll do my best to answer you guys in a timely fashion. And if you enjoyed this video, do me a solid, like, subscribe, all that good jazz. It really does help us find new customers out there. We really do enjoy doing these reviews. So please, if you don't mind, give us a little love, and we'll keep doing these great videos for you. Thank you very much, and we appreciate you watching.